Welcome everyone back to another episode of 20 Seconds of Courage. Today, got my business partner Jeffrey Kalafut and another business partner Kevin LoGrande, and we are going to talk about real estate investing. Um, with 20 Seconds of Courage, we interview entrepreneurs that take the leap of faith, that build the knowledge base, and take the courage to take the leap of faith to start something new and new ventures. Kevin, thank you for joining us today.
Of course, anytime. Nice to see you both.
Good to see you too, buddy. Kev, real estate investing. You let's get right into it. How long did you do research or have the idea that you wanted to jump into real estate investing prior to taking that leap of faith?
Well, I'll tell you, gosh, it was probably about 2006, 2007. I had done some rich dad, poor dad seminars, right?
Mhm.
Where you learn all these different methods of how to invest, right? So whether you're going to do a Burr method at the time was really popular, fix and flipping was really popular. And of course, everybody told you start out with wholesaling, right? So took a course to kind of learn all that. But um, at the same, I mean, at the same time, right, we were rolling into this market where everything was high, things were super expensive, if you remember back then. And then all of a sudden that market crashed. So over that course of like maybe 2 to 3 years, I was trying to learn, never getting started. And all of a sudden there's a market crash. So if that ever scared anybody out of it, right, it was that for sure. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
The dream kind of went back that far. And then, of course, saw around 2012 to 15 prices become reasonable, and different types of real estate, depending on your strategy, became more and more attractive. So as we rolled into like 17, 18, I really got into rental properties because I was able to see the value in the rents were exceeding the cost and the coverage of holding on to a property. So that's how I broke in.
Okay.
And so it was a long time waiting, a long time learning.
Right.
But I think I suffered as many people do, right? Having a corporate job and saying like, I'm going to take my money and put it where. Lots of other people around you saying, are you crazy? Right?
Hmm.
Look what just happened in the real estate market.
Yeah.
But most investors will tell you when most are running out is when you should run in.
Hmm.
And in hindsight, that was certainly a really good strategy for me. I had waited a little bit longer even than I should, but looking back, it was a great first move.
Right. So, I want to speak to people who maybe are 2 or 5 years behind where you are now, right? So, do you feel that learning all the different strategies in the real estate investing, like you said, flipping, holding, the Burr method, was when you're doing your education, learning all those different methods and then understanding when to apply those methods to the different real estate market, did that make it more comfortable? Be like, okay, I'm going to apply this method because of this market, or is it still a case by case basis on different areas and different properties?
Yeah. Well, looking back, to where the beginning was, right? Taking a lot of advice that wholesaling is the way you should start. And most people tell you that because a lot of people start from not having any money to invest, right?
Hmm.
I personally don't necessarily, if someone was starting, I'd say you'd have to start with two other factors first. One, what is your real estate goal? Because every method is going to meet a specific real estate goal that you might have. Really think you need to sit down and be thoughtful about what do I want to do with real estate, right?
Hmm.
Getting involved in real estate investing is very sexy, it's very glamorous, right? But there's just such a broad category, it really should serve its purpose, right? So in an example, if you're looking for legacy wealth or something that you're going to be able to use in your retirement and collect those rents, you're looking for rental properties. And if you're looking for quick cash, right, yes, wholesale, not a lot of money out of pocket, but it's not a great start because you need a database of sellers and you need a database of buyers, and it takes time and capital to build that up, right? So something as simple as using a realtor to get into a flip, right? That you could work on for 3 to 6 months and then turn over in a market like ours, and have a margin of safety to get some chunk money into that. But so the very first thing I would say, going back to the beginning, is start with a goal in mind. think about what you want to accomplish with real estate investing, and then let the method match.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I would say is, don't suffer from what I suffer from, learning all these methods, right? Because if you started with what your goal is, then you would know the right method for you, right?
Mhm.
Now that said, having been where I've been and been through a number of different things, I really do think if that fixing and flipping houses is a really good start. And here's the
Okay.
reason why. There's so many exits on a fix and flip, right? That if the market turns on you, if you've bought right, you could do a number of different things. You could have a plan B, A, B, and C, right? So you could exit the market with a nice profit, right? If market trends start to turn down and you might want to hold it off a little bit, right? You could turn it into a rental, right? Refi that short-term loan out into a longer-term loan, and God knows the products are getting longer and longer potentially, that you could stretch out that payment so that you can cash flow. And then likewise, there's all these other methods you could put on top of there. People hear of BRRRR, which is buy, rehab, refi, and rent, right?
Mhm.
And then repeat, right? So you could also just find a property and then say to yourself, I'm just going to fix this up only to a level that's good enough to rent. It doesn't have to have all the top end things. So midway through, if you're seeing the market turn on you, you don't have to put the high end fixtures. You can really be nimble in that. And with
Right.
that, you can dovetail everything else onto flipping. So my humble opinion to get started is to, potentially work with a realtor to find something that's on market but needs work, and
Mhm.
start with potentially some simple cosmetic updates, right? And then get it back on the market. Understand that real estate investing is a lot more high transactions than the one time you bought your house 10 years ago, maybe the one time you'll sell your house 10 years from now.
Mhm.
So get yourself involved in what it feels like to be in the emotions of, oh my gosh, the prices are high today, but my offer's only here, and all that stuff. This way you can take the emotions out of it
Mhm.
and really do have a factual, profitable business.
Nice. I want to touch on the method you just mentioned. Fix and flip and then the Burr method and stuff like that. I really want to touch on capital because you know, fix and flip is a little bit different than the Burr method in regards to the Burr method is having basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but buying the house outright because you really can't unless there's enough skin in the game or you force that appreciation on that house to refinance it to draw the money out, it would be a little tougher. So with the Burr method, like if you're following the method to its T, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're basically buy the house cash all at once, or buy it outright. Whereas with the fix and flip, you can put only maybe a certain amount of money down and then you know finance the flipping and finance whether it's hard money or something like that, repair it and then and sell it. Can So what I'm trying to say is, how much capital did you feel comfortable with in the beginning to either how much did you need for a down payment, or and what did that look like?
Okay, so there's a lot of things to unpack in there. Like, one, the first thing I would tell anybody who wants to get involved is change your mindset. There's money all over the place that wants to get involved in real estate. And then, yes, to your purest sense of the difference between bar and fix and flipping, buying outright. Now, I have a different opinion of that, right? So, in the money partners and the hard money lenders that I use, they've got a number of different products, right? That'll allow you to get involved into a rental rehab, right? And then on the other side of it, as long as you're giving them what's called a DSCR loan, which is based off, you're refinancing based off the value that you put in it on top of a calculation versus the incoming rent for their margin of safety. So there's plenty of lenders out there that you can start to talk to, work with, and talk about what their programs are. And then likewise, there are a lot of folks who have corporate jobs, but have maybe $30,000 to $50,000 sitting on the side, and they could gap fund you in and put that down payment money in for you, right? You're giving them, an interest rate over that period of time, usually a little bit more aggressive. But again, if you're going to pay them, let's say anywhere between 12 and 18% for gapping you $50,000, but you're going to make 80 on the other side either way, why
It's
would you
well
not
worth
do
it.
that, right?
Right.
So I would say the first thing around that is, what's your mindset? Who are the folks that you're in circles with that
Hmm.
are interested in investing in real estate or have experience investing in real estate? And also really understanding the lending products that are out there for you. But no, I don't, my opinion, I don't believe that you need to have cash only to burr.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair
there's
enough.
different ways to finance things. You're right. It's you have friends, you have family, you have business partners that they don't want to take the time to get into the actual fix and flip themselves. They have the money, they want to invest in real estate, they just don't have the time to do the rest. So use their capital to basically reach your goals that you have to make.
Yeah, and what I would encourage anybody getting involved is to really start to find mentors, start to run in circles of people who are in this, because gosh, I can't even use all of my own money on my own flips. If I have a self-directed IRA funds that in a checkbook driven account, and I can't use those, I can't partner with myself on those. It has to be arm's length transaction. So I'm lending that money out to other rehab or flippers all the time, right? And vice versa, right? So it's really traveling in new circles. It's really opening your mind to a completely different world. A lot of us have, grown up in a corporate world. You go to school, you get a job, you have your 401k, and it can only be invested in certain things, right? There's a lot of different products. It's a whole different world of kind of money and the flow of money out there, and lending products that are all solely focused on helping people get involved in real estate. And simply why? Either one, they don't want to do it themselves. They just want their money working for them, right? There's lenders out there that I work with that have been rehabbers their whole careers. They've made a ton of money. They don't want to do it anymore. They just want their money, and they know how lucrative the real estate transactions can be. They just want to be involved without doing the work. So they're lending the money, and they won't lend it to anybody else unless they're doing a flip. They won't lend it to anybody else unless they're doing a burr, because they know their money's getting in, they're getting a high interest rate, and then it's coming right back out.
Hey, Kev, I want to touch on one thing too, because the beginning investor, which is probably going to be who's going to be really paying attention to this. Like, can you go into details a little bit about what was your first investment in real estate? How did it go? What were the highs and the lows of that transaction? Any lessons learned?
Sure. Okay. So let's see. One of the very first transactions, really fun. We're up in northern New Jersey. The prices are a little bit high here. But I was at the time I had my real estate license since 2008. And I was in a brokerage that had access to HUD properties. So we would just bid on the HUD home store all day long and just trying to, get on there and find in New Jersey properties, because this person was a New Jersey broker. So we were limited by that. But I found a South Jersey property that was in, again, post 2008 crash, so it was available at the time. We got it for a really nice discount, but guess what? I didn't have the money, right? So I was like, oh, freak out, right? They accepted our thing, right? But this was where my mind opened up to, like, there's money out there all over the place. So a colleague of mine who I work with at a pharmaceutical company was like, hey, he also had a real estate license on the side in South Jersey. So he's like, I know the area really well, right? But I also know a guy who's in tech, makes a lot of money, and just wants his money involved in real estate, but he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm a pretty handy guy. So we got our hands on that with private money. So we didn't even talk about a bank or a hard money lender. It was somebody's private money. Got into that. And then we did it all ourselves. Right.
Oh, wow.
So I'm skim coating walls. I'm changing out countertops, painting cabinets, all that stuff. But it turns out that we flipped that thing for a really nice profit. Now, my buddy and I, who the realtor from the southern part of New Jersey, we split our side of the profit.
Right.
And then what we gave to the private money wasn't an interest rate. We gave them 50% of the profits.
Yeah.
Now, look, there's a lot of different ways to get involved in real estate. Looking back, I would never give that much money away. I did so much work. But at the same time, would you not give that much money away to be involved in a deal if you couldn't anyway? Right. So again, just keeping your mind open about that. So that was my very first deal. And I drove down to exit 4 on the turnpike every weekend, sanded floors, did everything myself. But that was like, boom, once it turned, sold, we made a profit, and I was like, whew, got to find another one to get started again. It's like, wow, right? So learned a lot of lessons there, learned a lot about material costs and how to value work and labor, right? Which I'm more than happy to pay for these days because of it.
Right.
But it also made me a better flipper today, because I really enjoy better running subcontractors and just kind of GCing it myself, having a vision and
Right.
subcontracting it out. But again, I learned all that. That's a long journey in between, of course.
Yeah.
But
Right.
that was the very first one. And then I'll tell you about my very first long-term rental, because this is another interesting story, again, about keeping people to open minds. Here we are, again, we're up in North Jersey. I'm making a little bit of a sales bonus on the side. That's my little bit of extra money. That's not a down payment on a rental in Northern New Jersey, right? In my
Right.
world, right? So
Right.
I started investigating into other markets. What are other markets in this country where I might be able to take a $25,000 down payment and have a nice cash flowing rental property? So I found that out of state investing was really good to take New Jersey money, New Jersey wages, and then go put down payments on cash flowing rentals. Not to mention, if you find the right market, you'll find low costs, high rent rates, which I encourage everybody to go and look at, and not be afraid of the fact that, like, hey, I'm not there. Well, you know what? I have a rental here in New Jersey, and I'm actually there even less than I am my rentals in Ohio and St. Louis, right? So that should just let you know that there's other professionals out there, right? So you could buy turnkey in these markets and then have a property manager manage those for you. They'll rent ready it up. They'll put tenants in, all that stuff. So that's what I do now, right? So my very first one was like, how could I afford this, right? I turned a 401k from a job that I had left and turned it into a self-directed. And my very first long-term rental property is in a Roth self-directed IRA. So now I bought that property at $50,000 turnkey in an Ohio market. It's now worth $150,000. I own it outright, and every month I get $1,000 rent.
Nice.
Right. And it's tax free. So, that was the beginning. I just wanted to find a way to get involved. I didn't have the money. I wasn't sure about lending products. So I just said, what are other ways to do it? Started investing in self-directed IRAs. What could I do with other money? Right. Your money doesn't have to be in the stock market all the time. So that alternative thinking got me into my very first rental. And then from there, boom, I'm on 10 doors in Ohio. Right. So.
And that's one thing I want to touch on too. You're not just localized, right? You're out of state, pretty far away in different markets. Me being a Jersey born and bred, guy here, former cop, I don't trust people very easily. So how did you go about finding your team of people out there and getting a group that really you could trust them to do the work for you the right way?
100%. Right. So toe in the water, right? So you said the most important word is your team, right? So not everybody will do this. There's a lot of people in this virtual world that'll just call people and try to build rapport and trust over the phone. But I will tell you, my very first one, here's what I did. I found an agent who I just thought I would click with, called a couple agents out in that market in Ohio. And I said, hey, I'm going to come out in the next couple of weeks. Here's a weekend that I'm going to plan on being there. Would you take me around to show properties? Right. I'm got X amount of money, want to do this. We're going to find cash flowing properties. At the time, there was a lot of turnkey in this market. So I actually went out and showed up. Right. Now, in this day and age, this was pre-COVID, right? But post-COVID, now everybody will give you video. Obviously, if you get the right broker's agreement, you can get video tours and things, right? So you could actually tour these properties, which I do now, right? If I'm buying something now, I don't immediately go out there until I'm maybe rehabbing it until I see it rent ready. But in the beginning, I flew out, I looked at the market, I found neighborhoods in the market that I was more comfortable with that maybe matched neighborhoods at home, just at a different price, right? What you'll find in other neighborhoods in other parts of the country is they're very similar, right? This side of the tracks, that side of the tracks, higher end, lower end. And if you just kind of look at, hey, this is a market that's a typical rental market in New Jersey, very similar. Here's the costs, here's the average rents. And again, you're going to use that team. You're going to have this dialogue back and forth. You're not going to come in trying to say, look, I was a real estate agent, right? But I didn't come in and say, like, let me see your MLS. I was just like, hey, talk to me. You've been here in this market for a really long time. Teach me about some of these neighborhoods, et cetera. And so took a lot of their advice, had a lot of back and forth, and we landed on this one property that I was able to put, an offer on. We got it accepted. And then while I was there, what I did, I had also pre-set up a few property managers that I wanted to interview. And I think it went a really long way, my going out there to meet them rather than who's this guy from, New Jersey, just calling up and everything like that. But And now every quarter I'll go out there, just about every quarter I'll go out there, meet my property managers, talk to the real estate agent, right? See what's going on, drive past my property, see if the neighborhoods are changing, right? So you got to remember, it is an investment. You wouldn't put anything, well, people put in their 401k and just leave it, which is a mistake. But you should be looking at your investments and keeping them up to date over time, having good conversations. I mean, on a monthly, you'll have a conversation with your property manager because you'll see the rents that came in, who's overdue, all that stuff. So on a monthly, you can check in with them. I like to make them phone calls. And then here's my tip, guys. If you go out to the market, we've got some really great pastry and all kinds of things that come from New Jersey that people would love to try. I showed up with my box of pastry and all these things from all these special places in New York and Arthur Avenue. And I just kind of gave out. I was like, hey, I say give a little and you get a lot. Right. So just be thoughtful about, these are human beings who are working probably for free, taking a chance on you coming into their market. But again, you could do a lot of pre-work, calling them, setting up a rapport, letting them know you'll be in town at that time. But, is it required? No. But I could tell you that now that I'm better at it, I just recently entered into the St. Louis market completely blind, but I know what I'm asking for and everything. Like, I would never recommend anybody do that. In fact, I'm mentoring a cousin of mine, and we've been kind of on this journey together for 3 years. I've been teaching him how to look at properties in that market and everything, a market that I'm really comfortable with, had him visit with me. Still hasn't pulled the trigger because, again, just like the rest of us, suffers from the same kind of fear. But at the same time, I'm helping him kind of take those down, take the step, call this one, have this conversation, let me know how it went. The first one was terrible. Call another guy, right? And you get better and better at it. And then you start to feel comfortable at team. You start to feel, I trust this guy. And then Jeff, that's a long-winded thing, but the very last piece of that is you got to test the waters, right? Just like any of us, right? We have to prove ourselves as agents, right, to our clients, and even more so now because a lot is on the line for our clients in these, really competitive markets and things. You want to have the right person on your team. So, if your first transaction doesn't go great, you'll get through it. If the person didn't respond as quick as you like, or it just they weren't as aggressive as you liked or whatever, find another one, try the next one out. I was on 2 different property managers before I landed on this one in this market. And now I expand in that market. I'm comfortable with these guys. I know their onboarding process. They know everything about me. So I'd be able to throw anything into their care really quickly, which gave me the courage to go into the net market, start again. And let me tell you, when I got handyman and everything out, I'm not happy with the first handyman, and I'm expert at it, right? So I'm not happy with the first handyman, but it's all right. Got through it. Never use him again. I'll use the next guy, right? So that's how you get comfortable. You got to be afraid to take a couple of things on the chin, right? Give yourself a little bit of margin, have a little bit of safety. Don't go razor's edge where everything's at risk. This way you can stay calm and cool with your vendors and your team, and realize that in the long run, it's all going to be profitable. As long as you do it right.
So to go on that, like you mentioned razor's edge, is there a number, a certain amount of money that you like to have as like a cash buffer just for those instances? Like what do you think a new investor should have as like a little cushion?
Sure. Well, that really depends on what method you're using, right? And I also think the cost of the market and your carrying costs and whatever method you're using, how much that is, and how it's also a risk base, right? So do you feel comfortable if things go awry for 3 months? Do you have that on the side, right? Let's take an example of an out-of-state market where the average home price right now is selling for $150,000, right? So let's say, 1% rule on that, which is something a lot of people use, right? But I suggest you get in a lot more detail. A 1% rule on $150,000, the market rent has to be about $1,500, right? Okay, you figure your down payment costs, they don't use attorneys out in this market, so it's really just all your closing costs, whatever, right? Say it's 8 to 10%, whatever it might be. After you put that aside, you have your down payment. Are you now at razor's edge where if the next month it doesn't get rented, like I'm coming $1,500 out of my pocket, let's say, or $800, $900 out of my pocket? Okay, how does that feel? Not good. So then do you have $2,400 to last 3 months? And is 3 months make you comfortable? If not, do you have 5,000 to last you 6 months? Right. And then you got to say to yourself, well, okay, what's my other tolerance of risk? I'm buying these turnkey, but pipes break and things happen and roofs leak and all that stuff. So there's, you got to have a little bit extra in there for just some last minute repairs. We call that your capital expenditures account or your CapEx account, right? I don't suggest anyone starts with 0 and let it build, right? A lot of people are like, oh, every month you take out 5% and put it into your CapEx. The first month, something's going to go wrong, especially in a rental, right? Great turnkey rental. Somebody gets in there and starts using everything, and all of a sudden the window doesn't work so great. You want to have good places for your tenants to come into, so you got to fix that window. $150. Like, was that in the CapEx or are you at 0? Right. So I couldn't say for sure a percentage or an amount, but again, just depending on the size and scope of the actual investment that you're making, make at least a proportionate CapEx on the side and have some buffer.
Gotcha. So say 150,000, 1,500 in rent. What do you like? Like maybe $5,000, $10,000 on the side?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, that's your first one, right? Then as you scale, you have that CapEx in that LLC, for example, if you're doing it in LLC, and that could be shared amongst properties, right? So as you build and scale, you'll get those economies of scale, right? So your very first one, it just seems like, wow, this isn't maybe so profitable, right? So let's just say it's a $150,000 house. And the mortgage, let's say, is $900, right? PITI is all in $900. You take your cost of property management, et cetera. Only cash flowing about $300 this year, right? Does that seem like a lot for all of us? No, but you do that in volume, right? And you put $5,000 on the side extra, and it's your safety buffer. This way, if anything goes wrong, you could always repair it. Then at this pace, next month, the rent, next year, you renew the lease, the rent is higher, somebody moves out, you do a turn, all of a sudden the rents are higher. Like, wow, you're cash flowing $750 on a property, for example. Like, wow, and it just keeps going. Then you got appreciation that you can pull out and buy the next one, right? So now you've got momentum and you've got that shared CapEx account that can be going, for all of them. Maybe you grow it because now your portfolio is getting bigger. But I guess the message there is you're going to have a lot up front. It's not going to seem as efficient, but then you keep going and you get those economies of scale, and man, you can't stop.
Right. What number of income each month? What is your threshold? Like, is it 300 a month? Hey, I need to make at least 300 a month, or is it lower? Can it be lower, or is it a case by case basis?
It's case by case, and you got to go back to your goals. I'll encourage everybody to go back to your goals. I'll give you an example. I stood out of Columbus, Ohio market for a really long time. I just wasn't comfortable. It just hadn't come up yet to the level it is today. I just stayed away, right? And I stayed in really high cash flowing markets, low cost, high cash flowing markets. I wouldn't touch anything that wasn't a 10% or more return on my money, which is actually a lower margin. A lot of people are looking for more. Me, I'm like, hey, like, I came from nothing. I had nothing. I just want to pass things down to my kids that are cash flowing, and I don't want to come out of my pocket every month, right? So in those lower cost markets, you got to be realistic too. For me, $500 and about 10% is what I really want. But I also encourage you, again, if you're a long-term investor, if you're looking at this, you should really be scoping the market and knowing what's a good, great, bad, terrible deal. If you're looking at it every day, something's going to pop. You're like, holy smokes, that'll cash flow $750. I'll take it. Right. So you got to know it that well. This way, you know what your margins are. And then you got to say to yourself, hey, I'm looking for 10 or 11% on my money. And then something comes in that's 9.5%. You're just you haven't added anything to your portfolio in a year. You're going to walk away from it. It's 0.5%, right? So you just got to know your goals there, right? And then, like I said, I have other mentors of mine that are like, I don't get into anything for less than 15. It's okay. I'm just not there yet, right? You can really start to be choosy. So now that's there. Then I go to Columbus, which is a much higher appreciating market. And my tolerance for cash flow is lower because I know that when I invested there, I'm investing for appreciation. And it's not only just cash flow. For me, my money rules, I don't ever want a property that I'm putting my own money into. So it's got to cash flow. There's got to be some margin of safety, but I'm not looking for huge, high cash flows in certain markets that are on the path of progress in Columbus, for example, because I know it's up and coming. Another market like Northeast Ohio, the appreciation already came. We just look for cash flow and it's bigger, wider. again, know your goals and then know why you're investing. And then you'll be able to know the answer to that.
Gotcha.
Now, Kevin, how fast did you grow from like that first door to where you are now? Like, was it like one or two properties a year? Like, how has that been working for you?
Yeah, hockey stick, right? So I was in corporate America, right? So I would take sales bonus. My wife and I would, pool bonus, whatever we got. So like, okay, how much money do we have? Like conventional loan, 20% down, X amount for repairs, like did it really super inefficient, right? It's a good way to do it. It's a good way to get in. We had really low interest rates. It was great, right? But that was like one this year, yay, right? And then we'll do another one next year, yay. And I just got to a point where I was just like, man, I'm all for one rental at a time. I love it, right? It's a great way to build well. But then I was just like, man, this is so slow, right? And so that's when I started to add on like, hey, I need faster money to come through. Yeah, I've got my corporate money, but I'm going to go and start getting involved in more flips, right? And my strategy for the flips were to go on vacation, right? If anybody watches my Facebook channel, whatever, it's like, boom, tip that flip, put it down on a duplex, right? So that's when I really started to accelerate. And now I'm really feeling like I'm starting to hit momentum because my very first ones have appreciated so much that I can cash out refi and start down payments on the next one. So it's going to be hockey stick because you start to build that momentum.
Right.
And you really get reminded why you started in the first place. And then this is how it really starts to take off. You get new mentors, you get exposed to more and more people who are doing all these different things. And then, you create a strategic plan to say, hey, take these 10 doors, 20 doors. If my strategic plan, if things go well and there's a lot of equity there, or I'm getting closer to my maxed out depreciation, 1031 exchange, get into more I fall in love with my properties, but you have to unfall in love with them when they're not giving you the tax benefits after a while. And then boom, you turn into another one. The rules are out there to help you win. You just got to know them. Right. So I really do think, Jeff, it's really slow at first. You get that one, get your feet wet, get through all the butterflies.
Yep.
For me, it was like a lower cost market. I felt comfortable. Like, hey, worst case scenario, I could always pay, an $800 mortgage myself from the side, whatever I have in savings. And then after that, though, you get really comfortable and you could just start, boom, like taking off. And I think I've just about hit that stride.
Awesome.
What about HELOCs? Do you ever take home equity lines of credit out or do anything like that, Kev?
So I have a rental that's got just tons and tons of equity in it, right? But everybody uses it for different things. Some people say like never let that sit, but for me, it's a different. Again, real estate could be such a vehicle for everybody. Like I intend to HELOC that out if my son wants to finally fulfill his dream and go to orthodontic school, right? We've got his first 4 years paid for, but the rest of it, like, so we're just letting that equity build and hold for him for that. This is what real estate could do for you. Now, can you HELOC that out and make a huge Absolutely, I can too, right? But it's just a matter of, I think we've got, enough in certain areas that will do that. But yes, I would never HELOC for a boat. That's me personally. I would never HELOC for a toy, but I would take real estate equity and put it in real estate equity for sure. Right? Absolutely. Especially because, if you're looking at not getting involved in something and being able to get in something that's significantly cash flowing is going to appreciate over time, why would you not take a 7.5%, whatever, the rate is today, HELOC, and then put that down in somewhere else? My advice for anybody who's looking at HELOC is don't leverage it all the way up as much as you can, right? If you can get a solid chunk and get your hands on something, you don't have to over lever the whole entire thing, right? Don't draw out all that thing on the credit line. Draw it out as you need it, right? And get involved in one thing, let it cash flow, right? And if, because a lot of people will go in, take the whole nut out, start paying all that interest on it, and then it's just kind of sitting there. Like, well, that's defeating the purpose, right? So yes, definitely. I would HELOC out to buy a business. I would HELOC out to buy more real estate for sure.
Yeah, I think HELOCs right now are like around 9.
Yeah. And well, my recommendation, just like anything else, it's good to have a team of solid people that but it's also good to have multiple people in the same category on your team. Especially in the lending space, right? You'll have lenders that are like, hey, we're not interested in second mortgages right now. We're not interested in first mortgages right now. So their rates are going to be higher because they're just kind of disincentivizing you to come to them for that. Yet the next bank might be like, I want to take more of these on, so I'm giving a significant discount, right? The rates are lower. So you got to really always got to shop around for your loans. I love our loan partners, but at the same time, you got to do what works for you.
Yep.
Gotcha. What is the most nightmare scenario you've had so far in real estate investing?
Not most nightmare. I think I've been lucky, but I've also been really cautious, right? So a lot of people say like, you could be here or whatever. It's like, yeah, I didn't take a lot of those risks. I did it low and slow, which is fine too. But the biggest one was rehabbing a property for rent, not having the right team, not having, the right contracts in place, and not getting it rehabbed in time, and just letting it draw on and on to the point where it's like it ate up the extra funds, it ate up everything. I was like, man, like just took way too long. It should have been done, right? And again, that was in a new market and all that stuff. So I kind of knew that there was the risk of that going on. Should have managed it better, right? Should have probably been higher on top of it. Understand your labor in one market's not the same as labor in another market. You got to really manage culture and manage the styles differently and stuff. And that's the same thing I would say if you're here local in New Jersey, same thing, north to south, east to west, right? You got to just, definitely manage your contractors. Don't let any, nothing go for granted, right? You could be a pain, you could be there weekly, right? Checking in on them and being really clear on what the end goal is. So that's my major thing is a rehab that didn't go according to timeline.
Now, for your first time investor, would you recommend staying pretty localized so you can have more of a hands-on and get involved in ways that you wouldn't be able to out of market?
For sure, but if it's going to hold you back for too long because prices aren't there, or you really can't figure out money or down payments or partners, then I say, the world got so much smaller, especially since COVID, right? If you're willing to go out there and take care of your investments and nurture it once a quarter, et cetera, I would say do it so that you can get in, because any real estate investor is going to tell you this. What's your biggest regret is that I didn't start sooner, or I didn't scale quicker, or anything like that. So, because real estate over time is a really amazing investment, right? So every year or 5 that you don't get involved because you can't figure it out here because it's super expensive, you could do like I did, right? And go out to a different market. Does it take time? Yeah. But I don't know anybody who should tell you that real estate. I mean, if you want to have really passive real estate investments that give you some tax benefits, just put your money in a REIT, right? But then don't forget you're losing your control, right? So with that, I would say use your local market. If you've got partners and you're involved in the real estate game, and you know the local market, that's definitely going to give you less risk. But that doesn't mean you can't take down the risk in another market. You just have to do your research. You have to take your time. Right. So I would say if it's going to stop you, go ahead and go to another market.
Right. So it's like, especially if you're saying you're in the Northeast right here, like your risk is going to be your time being able to prepare yourself to have enough finances to buy a property in the Northeast, to where if you were to say Midwest, your risk is obviously you're not going to be boots on the ground all the time, but the money is not going to be as tight. You might have a little bit more flexibility with, your finances, and you can fund certain things a little bit more and speed up the process. So it's all a calculation of what your risk tolerance could be.
Right.
And I think a lot of people get caught up with analysis paralysis too. You overanalyze things, you get stuck. Like you said, Kev, like when you first did it, like there's years of just trying to learn things, and everybody, I think a lot of us do the same thing. Like we're digging in, we're reading books, listening to audio, Audible, we're watching videos on different investments and how they're operating, and trying to figure out what's the best goal and what's the best plan for us. And you get stuck in that cycle over and over again until you finally pull the trigger. It's like for you, like what finally pushed you over that edge to say, screw it, I got to just do it.
Definitely. And I learned it. This particular lesson I learned for a lot of things in life, right? Is this lesson is just like, make all your decisions before you're in the emotion, right? So if it's a 10% return on your money and cash flow of X amount, and you have your money rules, when it lands in the box, right? You really don't have too much decision. It landed in your box, go for it, right? So if you don't do all that, when the deal comes on your desk, you're going to, but, and then it's going to pass you. right? So if you could do all this decision when it's not emotional, right, and make it very factual, that's when I was able to say like hits all the money rules, right? Like, and let's just do it,
Right.
that, and then of course having good mentors and having good
Yeah.
folks who did it before me, who are like, look, we're open book about like, these are my profits and losses, let me show you, right? So that I actually got to experience. I did a lot of guru learning at first, and while you learn a lot, you're not sure if like, did they have something different that I didn't have?
You're like, what am I missing?
Right. Is there something there that I didn't have?
Yeah. There's something else I have to do that they're not telling me. Like, you get lost. Yeah. You get stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when I started attending local real estate investment club meetings and started working with people, and believe it or not, my mentor wasn't like this big real estate investor, right? I didn't come from folks who had real estate, right? So I needed to learn that. So it was like literally almost like the neighbor next door, pretty much, who was just like, look, I got a couple of rental properties. Here's how it works, right? Here's all the things that went wrong in a year and all this stuff. I got to see their bills and like, okay, they just called this plumber. Like, what'd you do? You just called this plumber. Okay. It seems so hard to manage, but it's like, I called the plumber. What would you do for your house? Right.
Right.
But it costs money, right? So you just got to know you have that money as part of your investment. Once I saw all that, I was just like, it's really not that hard, right? But it was just seeing somebody else have walked 2 steps in my shoes ahead, right? And then just following them. I was probably comparing my step 1 to somebody else's step 10,000. And that was my biggest, it held me back too long because I wasn't looking for somebody who was at step 10. I kept looking at that step 1,000 and like, how the hell am I going to get there? Right. So I just had to pull it back and be like, you got a couple, how did you do it? Right. And then just get into that, because you're not going to go from 0 to 1,000.
Right.
I think that's what really, boom, got me over it, because when you get to that guy who's in 10, he's going to show you, right? And you're going to live it with him for a year and everything like that, which is why, I kind of take on some family members as mentors now and again to try and help them get over their hurdles too. And just, if I could look back, I would do it for almost anybody. So, because I didn't have it, I had to bust through, learn a lot of things. It took me way too long. And if I could have started in 2008, 9, 10, we'd be on fire right now. But so that said, I really do think that, over the time I've learned a lot. So I've been trying to take what we do as realtors, right? And that's just one tiny piece of the real estate market, right? And where most people participate in just that one piece. But I think a lot of folks are opening their minds to say, like, I own my house, but what about other real estate and things like that? So those of us who have been involved in the markets for a long time, whether you're investing or just as a realtor, right? Like, I think we have a lot of insights to offer people, right? I had a retail client that came to me that said, like, hey, maybe I want to buy my first rental property. And, they were looking at properties in the 500,000s in this area. I was like, look, your rent's just not going to, like, what's your plan? What's your goal? Is it all appreciation? I'm all for it. Right. But if you're looking for cash flow, let me show you why these numbers don't work. And it was just, I was just so happy to be able to show him, like, here's what years of working numbers look like and whatever, and teach him how to do that. This way they can go and research properties and feel comfortable this way. When they're making their investment, we're there to advise them, and we're not, bringing people into deals that they don't know what they're getting into. Right. So I think it's a real value add that we all have. I mean, Jay, man, like, deal check, buddy. Like, you, like the way you advocate for actually putting numbers in and at least taking a look at the property before going in emotionally, like, oh, this could turn into a rental. It's got 3 bedrooms. It's got a separate door. It's like, wow, that's just not how it works. Like, that's the HGTV version of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and then, also having the knowledge base to go, okay, how can I, with this property, the layout of the property, is there any way I can force appreciation? Can I add a bedroom? Can 100%. I add something? Can I add a level down the road? Does the neighborhood warrant adding a level? Are the other houses in the area, do they have 2 stories? So it's just having a broad knowledge of what the property is now and then what it could potentially be down the road, and analyzing that. But I think that, like you said, like, that is long, you said it took you a while to make that first move, but I mean, you are collecting, invaluable information to be able to feel confident to make that move. Because I think so many people they'll analyze a deal and be like, this looks good, but what am I missing? Because they don't have that solid knowledge base in the background that you went through just yet.
That's it. That's it.
And that hesitation can, stop them. And, and they look back and say, I wish I got started sooner. I wish I took that leap of faith.
For sure. That everyone's going to tell you, like, I wish I got over that fear. It was really nothing, but fear is a killer. And I've been a victim of it too, right? I just, how do you it's mindset. We talk about this a lot. And I know a lot of the folks that you interview on this particular channel and show talk about mindset. And the real mindset is, what's the way to overcome fear is knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm worried about what it's going to cost to fix the plumbing on this house where the copper got ripped out, call a plumber, right? Get an estimate. Call another plumber, get an estimate. What if I'm getting ripped off? Call a third plumber and see what the average is, right? And, draw up your contract, whatever. Your knowledge just erase your fear. It's going to cost $2,500. It's going to cost $3,000. Okay. Like, all right. If I use my down payment and I put my 300, it's still going to be a good property, right? So just try to overcome that fear with knowledge, use mentors, use people who are a step ahead of you. Use your real estate professionals, right? Because they know the markets really well. They know how things have been changing up and down. And, they could show you trends and things like that. So we can make an educated decision based on your goals.
Right.
Based on your goals.
I mean, you mentioned, knowledge. The equation would be knowledge and then action, because you can have the knowledge, but if you don't take the action to call the plumber, or you don't take the action to figure out to solve the problem, all the information, what you should be gathering, but without action, you're just basically a stalemate. You're just stuck, frozen.
100%. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm one of those folks that has the propensity to just take action. I'm a little bit more shoot than point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just everybody's personality, right? But it's a really good point, because a lot of people will have the to-do list for the day, and then for whatever reason, why didn't you do it? I don't know. Well, you know better. I know. Just go do it, right? But because again, there's that little bit of fear. But again, that's why I say first step is just knowledge. It doesn't hurt to call the plumber, call whomever, and get a price, right? It's a free estimate. Not that you want to waste anybody's time, but you are potentially investing, right? So take down as much of the unknowns as you possibly can, right? Squelch fear with knowledge, and then take action. You got it. So.
Awesome, Kev.
Love it.
Kev, what else you got going on?
What else I have going on? Well, so I got some new ventures going on. I've been really thinking about what are the ways that I could take all this time that I have working with retail clients and working on the buy and sell side as a realtor, and then take my investing knowledge and my fix and flipping know-how, abilities to GC, time that we have, and saying, like, how could I bring that to service more of my colleagues in real estate as well as home sellers and buyers? And so I'm on a path to have a business that is going to help, and it's called, we'll call it renovation sells, right? So really maximize the profit on the side. So to be able to do just quick cosmetic updates to the home, so that it is literally like everybody's looking for that Instagram ready house, right? So I wanted to say, how could I bring my rehab, kind of my eye and for rehab, and my ability to GC and get things done quickly? Because, hey, it could take 6 months, but what I think I've really gotten down is, how could I do the quick updates that add a lot of value and get in and out on a timeline that's very predictable, and create a lot of value in a home so that we can maximize on the other side. And the reason why is because I think what we're finding is a lot of homes at this point from the buyer side, unfortunately in our market, are having to settle. There's only so many homes on the market, so I'm going to go ahead and settle in. And it wasn't the Instagram ready kitchen I wish I had, or I wish the floors were changed and whatever. So my idea is to kind of couple that along with, and help out you all as realtors, all of us as realtors, and partner with realtors to say, hey, I have a quick cosmetic renovation business that we can be in and out, right? as you're prepping the house for sale, we could have the kitchen updated with all the newest colors, fixtures, and everything to really maximize the profit and the value on this house on the market. And then on the flip side, for the buyers to say, hey, before you move in, right, we can take this kitchen and bring, get you sage cabinets and new quartz countertops and a new backsplash. It'll look like that Instagram ready kitchen. You'll feel great about the house that you're buying now, even though maybe you had to settle because there wasn't so many things out there.
Right.
And then also, I mean, we all know what happened during COVID, right? People moved from the city or moved wherever for a backyard, and they settled in maybe the home, just because they wanted to get out of an apartment and get into a home. So we moved into maybe, a lot of our houses are built 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they just never been updated. You've got those pink tile bathrooms or, maybe great wood cabinets in your kitchen. It's just maybe functionally obsolescent because there's no room for a dishwasher. So for those who aren't buying or selling, for those who are staying, just giving them a cosmetic facelift where they could actually bring the home up to date, feel really comfortable and feel like they haven't been stuck in a home that they weren't happy with, right? What they bought maybe during or right after COVID was for the yard and whatever. And now that they're trying to make best use of the space while they don't want to trade in their low interest rate for a new house, maybe we've just refreshed the house. So I figured, let me take what I know and bring those cosmetic quick updates to homeowners, buyers, and sellers, and be a good partner for my real estate colleagues out there to help them quickly sell houses on a predictable budget.
Awesome.
Love it.
That's great, man.
Yeah. So look out for announcements on that, and I'll be more than happy to come back and talk about that process once it's all settled.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to, or anybody wanted to mention in regards to, real estate investing? Any tips, anything?
Know this, what we talked about just barely scratched the surface on what real estate investing could be. There's land, tax deeds, commercial, right? Mixed use. There are so many other categories. There's storage, there's tiny homes, there's Airbnb, right? All of those categories maybe I haven't talked about because it's not what I chose to invest in. But again, if you start on your goals, right, and you think about what it is that you really want, right, you might get to Airbnb because, hey, I would like to just have something that pays for itself, which is in a really nice coastal community someday that I want to move into. Dude, that says Airbnb to me all day long, right? But it's just not something for me, right? So for you, if you start with your goals, then realize that the world of real estate is big and huge, right? And there's many different things out there. It'll point you in the right direction. Then all you need to do is go find somebody who's 1,000 steps ahead to be inspired, but maybe 10 steps ahead to get you involved.
So I do have a quick question, Kev.
Yeah.
When you first started, what was your goal?
My goal was to create legacy wealth for my kids, right? So we both work corporate jobs. We have pensions and 401ks, and then there's Social Security, right? But my concern about, let me tell you a quick story. My father-in-law worked for a car company for a very long time, his whole career. And then for whatever reason, the U.S. and the international division wanted to consolidate. So they bankrupt the U.S. portion of the company, including his pension.
Wow. So
after working all those years, the pension check is like very small compared to what he expected to be. And that was my eye opener, because my wife and I both worked in pharmaceutical corporate America with great pension and whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if that's not there?
Right.
Right. And then you couple that with the rising costs of things, which inflation now, but when I started, it was just like, hey, 4% every year, right? If you just do the math on, what Social Security will be or whatever, the one thing you're going to find is like Social Security will pay you an infinite amount of benefits, but what your money can buy at that time, who knows? So I was looking for an investment that not only would last the test of time, but it was also indexed for inflation. So my rents on my holds go up 4% every year, right? So as my taxes go up and the cost of things go up, so do my rents, right? So not that makes you a bad landlord or anything like that, but otherwise it's a dying proposition, right? So I wanted my money to be invested in something that's going to grow proportionally over time, appreciate in value, rents will go up according to the market. And it's something that when I'm gone, I'll pass to my children so that they don't have to start over like I did.
Hmm. That's
So
awesome.
that landed me into long-term rental real estate.
Nice.
So, and depending on who you talk to, people will tell you that's nuts. There's better ways to do it to get rich quick and all that stuff. And that's fine. But for me, I just wanted that long-standing legacy wealth.
And
Right.
you got to find what your tolerance is, and you have to, like you said from the beginning, that your goals they're gonna direct you to where you need to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. And there's also going to be people that'll tell you, like, Kevin, so like, why is your long-term plan to 1031 all these singles and duplexes into a building someday? Just get involved in a building today.
Right.
Well, it's all paradigm, right? So came from a family of laborers who told us, my wife and I, like, go to school, get a job. We got a corporate job. Our paradigm was like, this is it. So for me, jumping into like 100-unit multifamily is a lot. Right.
Right.
So having my little single doors that have little single problems and duplexes and whatever, but I've been growing. Right. And so now I'm looking to turn my duplexes into fourplexes and sixplexes and 10plexes.
Right.
Understand that there's a strong cut in 4 units or less on the type of loans that you get, right? So that's what I was comfortable with, but I'm learning and I'm exploring and doing I'm on the next part of my journey, right? So that's what I would say is like, yeah. So some people go to multifamily investing courses and boom, they do it, right? It's just my level of comfort and everything. And like, we weren't willing to sacrifice and risk and that takes a lot of time too, right? So
sure.
Turnkey passive rentals, you could still work, right? Again, it's what's your goals, right? And that's where we were.
Right. I think that's important. Instead of having analysis paralysis, is what, one of the key takeaways from our interview right now is make sure that you have a clear goal so you can stay focused on what method you're going to use, and you can learn all the ins and outs of that method. So you can take action after you build that knowledge. And then, like you say, your goals are going to evolve in regards to what your risk tolerance is because of the knowledge base that you've built. You know all the ins and outs now. So there's really no right or wrong way to do it as long as you're taking action and you're understanding the numbers and the risk tolerance and then reapplying the new knowledge base that you got. So
that's it, right? And then if you, like, for example, right now, my method of getting involved in big apartment complexes is participating in syndications, which someone else runs. I have an active role in reviewing all those numbers every time, every quarter and everything like that. I don't just put my money in and let it sit. I want to make sure these guys are doing their job, but I'm not ready to turn 100, buy a value add 100-unit. And as people leave, turnover, but someone else is, right? So that's another lesson here, right? Know your goals, but then also know you can participate, right? I'm involved in a number of flips. There's a flip going on in Hackensack right now that I drive past every day. Am I putting the siding on? No, but my money's invested in it. It's not my flip, but I still wanted to be involved in that flip. So how else could I have done it? Use 401k money, right? So think to yourself, what are my goals? How can I participate? And is there other ways that I could participate in different types of things? And man, you're off to the races, right? And then I guess the last big tip everyone take away, right? Don't compare yourself to step 1000. It'll hold you back, right? Step 1000 is so you can get your goal. What's my vision, right? But then get somebody who's at step 10 and follow them.
Nice.
Excellent.
Awesome. Kev, thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge and taking the time to share that with us, for sure.
Oh, of course. Anytime. This is like my jam. I love talking about real estate, as you guys know, but so do you. And that's why I joined the group with you all. This has just been really awesome. So if you have any questions or anybody does, they can feel free to reach out.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a check-in and see how
I'll do
things
a follow-up
going.
to this one, buddy. This is
it's
exciting.
Sounds good.
Exciting.
Sounds good.
Awesome, Kev. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thanks. Thanks, Jeff.
Talk to you soon, buddy. Be good, bud.
Bye now.